I couldn't believe it. I looked down the dock and who do I see? Shane Smith. That's Shane Smith from Vice. So here I have Shane Smith on the boat all week. Like, this is my idol. And the one thing I will regret probably for the rest of my life is just a quick warning, this podcast will have swear words in it, and a lot apparently. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to another episode of Okay, What? This is number 8. I'm pretty pumped because shit's happening. I think it's really real this time. It is. Quick shout out. I have 3 new subscribers and you guys are fucking legends. I feel really good about that, actually. It's, I feel like I'm giving you something that is interesting enough for you to click the subscribe button and fuck yeah, it's legendary. So thank you. Okay, so today we're dealing with a really shitty boom, but, it's still good. It serves me well. It's $7 from IKEA. It does not really hold the mic very well. It doesn't matter how far or hard I twist this button. It will just keep sagging. So we're going to have some issues today. Okay, I've rearranged it. This should hold. Who knows? Today's little chitty chat is going to be about what we wanted to be when we were little and how far away we are from that dream. So when I was young, and I would say probably between 8 and 12 years old, maybe a little bit later. Actually, who am I fucking kidding? 8 to today. I used to want to be a presenter on this TV show called Getaway. And basically what Getaway was, and it still airs today, I think, in Australia, it was a TV show where presenters would go and travel around the world and then they would report on different areas of the world. And we had this lady, Katrina Roundtree, who was the apple of Australia's eye. I think so. Everyone says it's Kylie Minogue. I say it's Katrina Roundtree. And maybe I'm biased because I still want to be her. She's a fucking babe. Okay, if she ever sees this, I don't mean to sexualize that, but you're a babe. Good on you. But she was my idol and I wanted to be her. And she would go to all these fantastic places all the way around the world. And, sometimes she'd be in a bikini and she had this hot rig or, she'd be in this snow gear and she would just report on what it looks like, what it feels like to be there, all the cool little aspects of it. Actually, I was just watching a 1996 episode on Internet Archives and she was in Seattle. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This episode was meant to be because obviously Seattle's where I live. Well, used to live. I kind of moved a little bit outside of Seattle now into a little country town. But yeah, it was also very cool to see her go to the places that I've been. But yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a presenter on Getaway. Actually, I wanted Katrina Roundtree to retire so that I could just be her. And I mean, what ended up happening with my life wasn't too far away from that, I guess. I'm not a journalist, that's for sure, but I did end up traveling extensively. I think I might have been a bit too drunk or high to video myself in different places and say anything of value, but I did get to see a buttload of places. But yeah, I found that pretty funny. That's what I wanted to be. Later on in life, it kind of changed a little bit because, my mum kind of drilled this into me that she wanted me to be an accountant. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I've got to be a professional. But it kind of changed into like a wartime journalist. I wanted to fucking be a wartime journalist. I wanted to go into like the thick of it where shit's going down and just record, and say my piece about it. I don't know what the fuck excited me about that. Now I kind of value my life and respect everyone who's doing it and fighting and all that jazz, whether it's just or not, doesn't matter. That's not the conversation. But that's kind of what I wanted to do. So it kind of evolved from being on Getaway to this, from this beautiful presenter presenting these fucking amazing places to a wartime journalist. You know what? It was a fucking book. I remember how that evolved. It was a book that I had read, and it was... Oh, that's right. It was One Crowded Hour by Tim Bowden. And it was about this Australian journalist named Neil Davis, and I don't know, I just found him so fucking cool. He was a Vietnam War journalist or correspondent. So he went and spent like a long time. I think it was almost a decade in Southeast Asia, kind of corresponding about the war, corresponding about things that were happening in Thailand and neighboring countries. And this guy kind of just oozed cool, where others would kind of be in the thick of it and a little bit freaked out and worried for their life and, obvious reasons why they would be so concerned for their life. Neil would just kind of walk in with a cigarette, he just had a really cool night the night before, got a little bit lit, just walks into war with a freaking cigarette and just records. And he captured some of the most intense video footage of that era. And his tragic demise, he was actually in Thailand taking a bit of a break. And while he was there was a military coup. And, in a military coup, you're more likely to die in the middle of Vietnam War than you would be in a military coup in Thailand. But he ended up getting caught in between the crossfire it was at this time in post-production on the very next day when I'm sitting on the couch in my daggies that I realized the recording had stopped there and I'm missing 10 minutes of video. So while I freak out, please enjoy this ad.
Does your water bottle only hold 2 sips? Are you always running dry on the job? Introducing Amazon's new 300-gallon water bottle.
Refill only once in a lifetime. Guaranteed.
Can vouch, it's a pretty bloody sick water bottle. I've only refilled it once in my life. New day, same clothes, bit of continuity, but I'm going to have to tell this story again. So, Neil Davis, he hides behind a truck and gets caught in the crossfire and tragically meets his demise. So reading that story, I was so inspired by his fearlessness and I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. Not die in the field, but I wanted to report on something that's really, really far away from, normal reporting like Getaway. I wanted to do something that was kind of meaningful, I guess. That's kind of what I figured. Now, not long after, I guess, reading this book, the legendary Vice documentaries came out. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Vice, you probably are, but the old Vice, Shane Smith, right? Shane Smith, my next idol. Move over, Katrina Roundtree. We've got Shane Smith in the house. Shane Smith and crew founded Vice, and they did these wild documentaries like Cannibal Warlords of Liberia. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like, I don't know what I could put on here, but people like, eating human hearts and shit. Like, it was wild. I don't even think that regular wartime correspondents would have been out where they were filming what they filmed. And that's what made me go, damn, that's it. That's the career I want. I want to work for Vice and I want to do something as legendary as Cannibal Warlords of Liberia. I maybe clung to that one. I was like, okay, move over, Getaway. Vice is it. But funnily enough, it's still in the journalism sphere. I don't know, what had me with journalism? So now I'm going to go on a tangent. And this tangent is a good one, and it's regarding Shane Smith. It starts off slow, but it gets to the punchline, so just bear with me. So later on, later, after school, much after school, I ended up working 4 jobs, like busting my ass, working at a gym during the day and then at the evening in a bar, on the weekends at another bar, and then in between I'd do this corporate hospitality. So I was like busting ass. I wanted to save up as much money as I could because I wanted to get the fuck out of here. One-way ticket overseas, let me go. Well, this idiot, right? I save up enough money to buy one-way tickets. It did a jump and a hop and a skip over to France. That was my end goal. My end goal was to get a job on a yacht. I left the country with 3,000 Australian dollars, which really isn't much, but I didn't fucking know any better. So off I go, overseas, $3,000, end up spending most of it within a month. Mum's like, don't call me. I can't afford to help you out. You're on your own. You made this decision. Off you go. You'll be right. Well, I make it to France and I've got 18 fucking euros in my bank account, 18 euros. I have one more night's stay at a hostel and I'm thinking, I'm in strife. I do not have a job yet on a yacht. I do not have enough money for a ticket home. Mum can't help me. I've got 18 euros. Did I say that? So off I go for one last walk on the dock, hoping to God I score a job because that was the goal. I didn't have a secondary plan. Walked the dock up and back. It was late in the season. There's no more freaking jobs left. I'm cooked. I'm like, womp womp. you're cooked. So I go into the little bar, and the bar's where all the captains and crew kind of hang out. And I'm thinking, okay, one more chance. There's a notice board up there. Maybe I can just get some day work. Maybe I can just work a day and get 150 euros and make that last, Maybe I can pay for one more night's sleeping at the hostel. Well, in walks this captain, and he comes over to me. He goes, "Hey, are you looking for a job?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. He goes, "Well, my stewardess just quit, so we need someone today." I'm like, it was like a godly stroke of luck, and I jumped on that. I was like, hell yeah, when do you need me? I will race, grab my shit, I'll be on the boat, let's go. And so enter my new career as a stewardess on super yachts. Well, years later, I end up getting this job on a 60-meter plus super yacht, right? It's like Below Deck. If you've ever seen Below Deck, it's like that. Probably exactly like that, maybe even worse. It was like raw with drama. There was drama. That is not the point. The point is, worked on this 60-meter yacht. There were 14 of us who worked on there full time. So we had chefs, stewardess, deckhands, like masseuse. I was personal training because I had also worked at gyms. Not that I could personal train now. Doesn't matter. So on this yacht, what we would do is we would either take the owner, who was a billionaire, like a legit billionaire, we would take him around on his holiday, or if he wanted to just stay on the yacht for a little bit, we'd take him around and look after him. But what we would also do is charter the boat out. So we would take on guests for a week at a time. They would pay the big bucks to get this awesome service and to sail around to these beautiful places that you and I have never heard of. And this one time, we were all dressed up nicely, ready to greet our new guests. So we're standing on the aft of the boat, all looking pretty. New guests come up. Lots of times it's celebrities or, really wealthy people. But this one fucking time, I could not believe my luck. I couldn't believe it. I looked down the dock, and who do I see? Shane fucking Smith. So here I have Shane Smith on the boat all week. Like, this is my idol. And the one thing I will regret probably for the rest of my life is that I was like gearing up to maybe at the end of his stay, I'll just say, look, I've always wanted to work for Vice. Like, this is the chance to get like my dream. And I never did. I never fucking did it. And maybe I will always think about that as like the shot I never shot, Remember when I was asked what I want to be when I grew up, and I think we were even watching Getaway at the time, and I was like, I want to be a Getaway presenter. And that's right, my parents ran with it. They picked it up and ran with it, and so did my grandparents. When anyone would ask, how's Candace going? How's she doing? Oh, great, she wants to be a journalist. She wants to go on Getaway. And I remember in high school, even my mum asked me, like, whatever happened to your dreams of being a journalist? And I was like, yeah, I still want to be a journalist. And she was pushing for the accountancy, like I said, because I think perhaps she might have needed an accountant at that time. But yeah, when push came to shove, and we were at high school, and then, work experience came along. That's right. I got put into fucking journalism. I'm like, shit. I wanted to go and work at the morgue. No word of a lie. I wanted to work at a morgue for a little area there. Maybe I was a little bit emo, but I found it fascinating. I was like, I want to work with dead bodies. What the fuck? But I was a troublemaker at school. I had actually wanted to apply for school captaincy, and I was going to do it. I was going to stick my hat in the ring, and I got all the people rallied up. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And they were all riled up like, fuck yeah, let's just like joke vote her in because we know the teachers don't like her. And the vice principal pulled me aside one day and said, Candace, we just don't think that you would be a good fit for school captaincy, and we're going to ask that you resign. I was like, I've got this. I've got this. I think she was going to let me do it, but she saw that I was rallying up the troops, and then she actually pulled me out of the race herself. She goes, maybe you could be a house captain instead. But naturally, school captains were often the A+ students, the sports people, the ones that are good for it, and accountable. I wouldn't have thought that I'd be accountable. So school, a work experience, what they do is send you out somewhere for 2 weeks so you get experience in the real world. The reality of it is that you go into these offices and they make you do all the shit jobs for 2 weeks and they work you because you're free hires. So I wasn't allowed to go to the morgue because I was untrustworthy, and I got sent to the local fucking newspaper instead. And it was boring. It was boring. And that actually probably turned me off of journalism. And what we did, we went on like a little excursion. So me and the journalist, we went out in the car out to a country field full of wheat. I don't even know what it was filled with, nothing. And we interviewed a farmer about, water usage. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. And then the journalist typed it up, and then I went through and did some data entry, and that was the project. Pretty cool, actually, because I think I got a mention in that paper that year. Mum probably has that paper. But yeah, I thought, if this is real world journalism, where's the wars? Where's the cannibal warlords? But I also had no idea how the world works. You got to work up to these things or, put it out there. But anyway, that was work experience. Something that I do wonder is how much of what we wanted to be when we were young was actually our dream or our parents' dream, or was it questions that were asked from adults to us that forced us to want to be something when we were older? Or did we actually sit there and want to be something? Like, I think that in one of my job applications later in life, in the design industry, I decided to go a little bit like out there with my cover letter because cover letters are fucking boring. I'm not a cover letter writer. And I think I wrote on there, when I was young, I wanted to be a box of crayons. That didn't quite work out. So now I want to be a designer. Oh, I just remember that now. I guess why I brought that up is being a box of crayons more aligned with what a kid might want to be? Like, wouldn't a kid want to be a dinosaur or a star? Not something functional like in the workspace. I don't know. I feel like that feels more natural for a kid to want to be something genuinely fun, like a Barbie doll or something, or a Polly Pocket. Oh my God, do you remember Polly Pockets? Ooh, another fun side note. I used to love Polly Pockets. I had these my favorite one was pink, and it was in a flower. And it had a little Polly. It was like a little mini Polly Pocket. And I loved this toy. I would bring it with me everywhere, keep it in my pocket, take it to places I shouldn't take it to. We were a church-going family when I was younger with my grandparents. So I'd friggin' pull this thing out and play with it in the church, and my grandma would get real pissed at me. Later, I took inspiration from that. I was doing a design job, which was like a loyalty program for a e-commerce company. And what they wanted was something out of the box, like something that told a story, not just your classic loyalty Oops, hang on, Jenny needed to get out, but not just a boring old loyalty program where you collect points and you spend your points, blah, 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 blah. And so I thought, okay, cool. This is cool. It was a furniture e-commerce store. So they sold like really hip kind of furniture. And first thought, I was like, fucking Polly Pocket. My role here was a creative director. I got to do the creative strategy of this point system. The content strategist did how the system would work. And so I designed this whole Polly Pocket-esque system where you could collect little pieces of furniture that were worth points. And once you had like a little house full of furniture and points, then you would get a monetary reward. So fucking cool. It's funny, actually. I do draw inspiration from my childhood a lot, I think, in my design work. Obviously, making a Polly Pocket. And all jokes aside, if you really think about it, what kind of was it as a kid that drove you to kind of make decisions about what you want to be when you're older? What were the attributes? Be famous, maybe be wealthy, perhaps, or be useful or be loved. Like, what were the key drivers of your decisions about what you wanted to be in the future as a kid, So, for example, like if I like the ads, I'm sure there's been a TV ad where there's a kid dressed up as an astronaut and he wants to be an astronaut when he's older. Like, what drives that? It's a curiosity about what's out there. And I don't know, if you really think about it, like, were those attributes or whatever you thought of as a kid, do they apply now in your job? Like, I don't know, do they apply in your job? For me, let's see, I kind of wanted to be creative, I guess. I wanted to explore and travel the world. I wanted to talk into a camera, funnily enough. And I wanted to have a bang and bod like Katrina Roundtree. So I didn't get the bang and bod. Well, I could have it. I don't know, but exercise isn't my forte. It probably should be. But I certainly wanted to travel and explore, and I did that, not necessarily in my career, but I guess for a snippet there, I worked on the yachts, and that was explorative. But yeah, really, it's something interesting to think about. And if it isn't in your career now, I don't know. Is it sad, or is it just that it's changed? Have you changed from being a kid? Or is when you were a kid kind of who you will always be, but it's just that life kind of bats you down and then your priorities change? Or maybe it doesn't bat you down. Maybe your priorities just change because being a box of crayons isn't realistic. I don't know. But it is an interesting thought. All right, that's enough babble for one day. Let's finish this off with our favorite segment. Life hacks from the internet. Number 1, if your dream job requires experience, simply put, I dreamed about it for years on your resume. Number 2, can't decide on a career? Just apply for all of them and let rejection be the decision. And number 3, want to be a millionaire? Start off as a billionaire and then make some bad investments. Okay, that's all from me and Jenny. See you next time. If you're loving our weekly chit-chat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so we can get this podcast pumping. Also visit our website at okwhatpodcast.com.